put your glasses on, that's fine. So first and foremost, Ken, your setup is pretty good. Now, I got a lot of technology. I use a lot of technology, but I try not to get people too crazy with it. Yeah, you like it. So let me shut this off for a second. My sister. Alright, so this shows you your weight distribution. Now, you weren't centered on the mat, but it looks like you got a little more weight on your right foot than your left, and your stance is too wide. Now, anatomically, your ankles should be right underneath your hips. And your right ankle is underneath your right hip, but your left ankle is not quite underneath your right hip. So you got to bring your left and right foot just a little closer together so your ankles are stacked. You want to stack your load-bearing joints. That's how you get better balance, and your center of gravity will lower, which will give you more stability. All right, so in this setup, I'm going to just go over your arms. I love them. Your arms are hanging directly under your shoulder sockets. The tip of the knees, the ball of the foot, they're in line. That's pretty good. That's what you want. Now, in terms of your swing plane, this is where we're going to change. We're going to get your hands in a different position at the top. Now, I haven't measured you yet, but anatomically, the way this works, I got my measuring tape in here. If your wingspan exceeds your height, this is all done by Golf Bioswing Dynamics. It says, if your wingspan exceeds your height, which we'll do, move a little closer to me because this is you're going to have a higher swing. So what does that mean, a higher swing? Grab onto that for me. All right. That means your hands are going to be higher. All right, so you're at 71 inches. I don't know how tall you are.
I'm a little over 6 feet, so it's about a couple inches. This is shorter.
Shorter, yeah, that's the way I am. So that's what I thought. I'm going to measure your forearms and upper arms in a second. So if your wingspan does not exceed your height, in my case, my wingspan is 2 inches shorter than my height, so my swing should be lower. You're not going to use a leverage swing through arc if you don't have a big arc. So typically, what would be a good setup at the top? You see how your hands work out and away from your body there? You're breaking your wrist far too early, and from my perspective, the club we would call that off the plane, because in an ideal situation, your hands should swing along this line, and the club head should stay somewhere in that yellow pane. All right, so your backswing is outside, and your downswing is outside. Outside meaning the club is going to swing outside that area. So what does that mean? That means the club head direction at impact is more to the left than it should be. And I have a machine over here with radar that will tell you that. But basically, your path is too much to the left. We want the swing to be more to the right. You can see, I'll show you a couple.
So I'm outside in.
You're outside in, that's right. Now, is it way outside in? No, it's not way outside in, but I want to go over while we're thinking about it. Here's the pitching. Notice his feet very close together, toes turned towards you. That's really important. I want you to have this triangle set up so the arms are up against the chest. You want to have some connection here. Notice the takeaway is void of any wrist cock. It's a little bit. That's the position for 20 yards. Remember what we said on the clock? We said the shots you're going to work on are 20 yards. I want you to hit a 20-yard shot, which is right here. Hands are going to be right there. All right. 35 is above the right hip. And he's hitting about a 35-yard shot here. All right, top of the middle of the chest is 50 yards. Again, this is with your sand wedge or your lob wedge.
The hands are.
Right, the hands are. Right, not the club. Right, the hands. And then, of course, here's 65. And then, of course, 80 would be over the right shoulder.
That's the distance.
Those are the distance the shots are going to be hit in the air. That's your carry number. Now, they might vary a little bit. I'm just giving you guidelines.
And what club is he
you're going to be using, well, he's using a sand wedge. What I want you to be doing is taking these numbers with two different golf clubs, the ones you hit. I would encourage you to use a 56 degree and 56 and 60, and measure the carry. Yes. Measure the carry. I ran out of numbers. All right. Now that's it. We're going to work on getting the club. Now, how are we going to fix your swing plane, and what causes the club to come out? The answer is your shoulders rotate and they should tilt. Your shoulders should tilt and not rotate.
Like that?
Right.
I see.
Now, some would say it's the sequence. Your upper body should move after your lower body. That's true. Your hips, in biomechanics, you've got forward flexion, you've got extension. That's the first two ranges of motion. The second two are right and left side bend, and then right and left rotation. Now I have a 3D technology with biofeedback. So if I put you on that machine, it's going to measure in degrees how much you rotate and how much you side bend and how much you move up and down. Now, in your golf swing, you need more side bend and you need more. What are my hips doing? They're shifting. They're not spinning. There's about 7-8 inches of lateral movement that takes place in the transition phase of the golf swing that's void of any rotation. So, let me show you what that looks like. Now, I know I'm getting very technical here,
No,
but
it's good because I know when I've hit my good drives, I've had that. I've watched the ball.
right,
And I've done that straight up.
exactly. So, in your swing here coming down, you're just starting with your shoulders and they're rotating too much out. So that's just because your hands are moving first and your shoulders are turning. Now, if you tilted and you shifted your lower body and you tilted your upper body a little more, your hands would then drop down. Now, I just gave you a downswing thought. Here's the backswing thought. And by the way, learning takes place without a golf club, in front of a mirror using feedback. You know, if you don't have biofeedback like I do, there'll be music. When you start your downswing proper, you'll see a green light and you'll hear music. It's biofeedback. But what I'm saying is, in front of the mirror, don't have a golf club. Train to ingrain a new pattern without a club. You're going to shift. You're working on bumping the hips toward the target. Yep, you're going to turn and you're going to keep your back to the target. That's the move right there. It's just very subtle. So the hips are going to move first in a lateral fashion. They don't spin. And then you're going to tilt. You're going to get the shoulders to do this. Now I have something called the pump drill, and you can look it up on YouTube. What you're going to do in the pump drill is you take the club back and you bump and you drop. Bump and drop the right shoulder. Bump and drop the right shoulder. Bump meaning bump the hips toward the target. Don't spin. It's a lateral move. How much do your hips move? They move about 7 to 10 inches forward, void of any rotation. So do not spin. Now, one of the exercises you can do is what we call hip trunk disassociation. I want you to shift your hips and begin to rotate them with your shoulders turned. Right. Shift them to the left and let them turn. You feel that? Now, I don't want you to move your, like when I do this, watch. My hips are moving, right? But look at my shoulders. You see how they're not moving? That's disassociation. That's right. Right. So I want you to practice, again, in front of a mirror, working on hip trunk disassociation. It's not just spin. It's lateral. Hold your shoulders so you can feel it. The next phase of this is in front of a mirror. Watch my hands. Now, can you move your hips and shoulders without moving your hands? That's a motor coordination exercise. You have to practice it because your brain has got to take that movement on. It's not easy, I'll just tell you. Most people can't do that, but I've been doing it the right way for 40 years, so I've already learned the pattern. I don't have to learn it. All right, so how do we get back to this? I want your hands lower. At the top of your swing, we're going to drop your hands closer to the ground and deeper. So look, what does deeper mean here, Ken? Look, let's imagine you're on a wall here, right? Depth is measured from in this direction. So the deeper you get your hands over here, the more they're going to come down over here.
So when you say deeper,
Toward that back wall.
right here.
Right. So watch. I'll just take all those lines away, and I'll say, here's your hands, and here's where I want them. And the simple fact is, if I draw a line, watch this, to the ball, okay, watch what happens to your hands. They follow that line like magic. So watch. If I go like this, now I've just shallowed out your plane. You're going to come more on a shallower angle. Does that make sense? Well, I didn't do anything other than just move your hands lower. That's a much easier way to think about it. Now, I gave you all that other stuff. The downswing stuff, I don't want you to think about any of that to play golf. That's just stuff you're working on. More turn. Your hands have to get behind your right shoulder, and I want you to put your hands closer to the back wall. Correct. All right. That was